So you want to navigate awkward conversations. Let me tell you what's in this book. Hi, I'm Chris, I'm a doctor. The main point from this book is that you should not take other people's actions personally. Now, I'll explain that a bit more. Say you're going about your day-to-day business and somebody gives you a lot of verbal abuse. Is that because what you've done to them? Probably not. If you've not done anything that justifies what they have said to you, it's likely that they're going through a lot of stress. I know that from my work as a GP, in which if you manage to speak to people and you've got the privilege to hear what they're going through, if you just look at somebody on the street, you'd have no idea the stresses and challenges that they're going through at the time. So generally, if somebody behaves badly towards you in terms of verbal abuse, just remember it's not about you. So let me tell you about this book. It's written by a lady from America. She initially worked in retail, having experience dealing with very tricky, demanding customers, in which you can't tell them to go for a quick for coffee, having a little for coffee with them. She has to be nice and has to speak to them. Then in call centres, but not just call centres chasing for debt, in which she found that if she spoke to the people in more detail, she'd often hear how much stress they're going through. She now works as a physiotherapist in America. She's got a YouTube channel. I'll put a link down below to that so you can see her stuff and reach out to her. I'm sure she'd love that. So what do you do? Well, the main thing is when you're speaking to somebody, try to respond with both empathy and compassion, not a script. So you can see if I'm reading a script, it comes across as rather scripted, but people tend to want to have their own individual emotions acknowledged. So if you can almost distance yourself from a conversation and understand what's really going on with that person, so that you're basically then able to react to their needs rather than solely reacting to their words. The use of silence is important. You don't have to agree with somebody either. So you don't have to keep a conversation going just because you're in a conversation. And you don't have to also say what you think. You can just let somebody speak. And often they're quite appreciative of that opportunity. Equally, if you're wanting to stop a conversation, you don't have to give a reason that you're not wanting to debate something with somebody. Life should be about joy rather than just trying to hammer your point over somebody else's point. And remember this, and at times people try and give compliments, they give presents, and inadvertently they can give insults. So I've got my Christmas jumper on. It's that time of year again. You may be watching this not at Christmas, but you've got a birthday coming up or something, and you think, well, I need to give somebody a present. Now, you may give it with good intent. Let's say that the person receives it and it's 3 sizes too big. They could wear it anyway and rock it in their YouTube video, or what they may think is, they're trying to say I'm kind of too overweight or too thin, and therefore, what do you do? Well, let's give the person a bit of leeway. They're probably giving you a gift wanting you to enjoy it. If not, what you could do, rather than saying promise not to do it again and they'll do it again potentially, is clearly outline the consequences. Look, I'd rather that you didn't give me jumpers that are the incorrect size, or please check with me first, otherwise they'll just go direct to charity. And that's fair enough, it's not threatening, but it's just a way of saying this is what would happen. Another bit that you want to avoid an awkward conversation is just by assuming everything has a charge. Don't assume that somebody will give you free golf lessons, for example. And the book goes into quite a lot of detail of scripts of things that you may say, although it does highlight that a script isn't the most important thing. But if, for example, you want to go through the book and look at things, you may want to say, instead of like, no, there's no way I can afford that, instead something like, No thank you, I'd rather keep looking around to see what else I can find. And it's important to have boundaries about what you want to discuss. And if necessary, you can just leave a conversation. So it's interesting, the author mentions that she doesn't like discussing politics, yet her husband does. And in essence, there was a stalemate in which one would want to discuss this, one wouldn't. I think that these are where the book falls down a bit, in honesty, and that's perhaps just her personal views, because she says that as she's a white woman, she can't comment on racism. If you want to learn about the difficulties of commenting on racism as a white person, I'll put a link down below to something I've written. If I've made a video, it'll go up there as a suggested video. I've made a couple, hopefully one you'll find useful. The other thing that I found quite unbelievable really is that if you're not a parent, you can't comment on parenthood. I realise parenthood is difficult, and people have this illusion that it's easy, and if I'm a parent, all will be right. Well, I can tell you that's not the case, and I can agree that parents who have been through that would probably agree with me. Whether they put that on a YouTube video to the public, I'm not sure. But I don't think that in a book where you're trying to manage awkward conversations, you can just say, well, refuse to speak about a particular conversation, because it may be important to the other person. There's an interesting bit about work and problems with work, and saying that really these are best directly dealt with rather than putting accusations around and trying to belittle others. And if there's a colleague underperforming, it's likely that your boss will already know that. So think of actually going to your boss and saying, look, how can we keep the project on track? What is my clear remit and responsibility? And there's also guidance to try and keep your home and personal life separate, simply on the basis that in health in particular you may keep working with people over the years. Personally, I'd go against that a bit. I know you have to keep the patient separate as best you can, and obviously there are GMC guidance on this. But I think with work colleagues, if you can become friends with them, your work will become more enjoyable. I think it's more about your reputation and perhaps what you may get up to in your home life. Perhaps the author may have hidden few things in the home life which they want to separate from work, which is absolutely fine. There's a lot in this book about breaking bad news, cancer, dementia, and you can see why, because she's working as a physiotherapist in America, often having to deal with people who potentially are going to die. And I did like some of these chapters about that, opening up those tricky conversations. And rather than having somebody who's got cancer and fears, and they may rightly be thinking they're going to die, saying, oh look, I'll give you a cheery motivational speech, or mention a friend who has recovered, just giving them some time to talk, to listen, to acknowledge what they're going through is really hard. And there's a large amount of content in this book. I'll put the link below if you want to buy it. As I say, she's an upcoming author. It would be good to support her, about bereavement and dementia as well. So if you're interested in those tricky conversations, feel free to read the book in detail. Of note though, there was no real content about dealing with people who have learning difficulties, which can also be a tricky conversation. The essence is that other people want seen and they actually want heard, and they want you to know that they're not crazy and that their emotions are actually normal and often justified. They want to know that other people want to see them do well and others care about their actual outcomes. And they want to feel connected with other people and supported. And it's amazing how many things we can handle when we choose to flow through them instead of resisting them and holding on to that need to be right. Remember, you don't have to respond to people. Give your opinion or let others know when you disagree with them. Letting somebody speak their mind and turning this into a conversation and perhaps a different topic is a beautiful skill set to have. So, interested if you find that useful, you know what to do, and I'll see you next time. Merry Christmas if it's that time of year. If it's not Christmas, then fantastic seasonal greetings when it comes round again.